During the 2.5-month period when I was working strictly on my house remodel and I put the layout on hiatus, I did purchase these 3 Athearn RTR tunnel motors. I bought 2 of 8314. 8314, I kind of see it as a blank slate. The 8314 model is a Snoot Nose. And these are also the Prime for Grime models that Athearn sells. Now you can see with the mismatched gray paint, and the road name is missing on the long hood. The 8314 models, they're unpatched, and because of the ditch lights, I believe these are probably from the early UP era. So I believe the SP locomotive started getting ditch lights after UP took over Southern Pacific. With this locomotive having ditch lights, the gyro light is gone, the UDE light is gone, the class lights are gone. The horn has been moved back to the long hood. So I'm thinking about making some changes to these 2 models to backdate them. One thing I'm going to want to do to both of the 8314 models is remove the ditch lights, put a gyro light back on the cab, move the horn up to the cab. All 3 of these locomotives have DCC and sound. They're equipped with the Soundtraxx Economi decoder, which should give me all the sound and lighting functions that I will need. Now these intake areas for the radiators isn't as clear and open as the scale trains units. You can see a gear tower right at the front of the intake opening. I'm going to want to put the road name back on the long hood. And as far as repainting the mismatched paint, I don't know if I'll do that or not. And one of these 8314 models I'll leave as 8314. And the other 8314, I'll change the road number to something else. Now in changing the road number under the cab window, if I have to use alcohol to get the numbers off, well, I'm not too concerned about it because the paint's mismatched anyway. So if it ends up a different color gray than either of these 2 grays, I'm not concerned about it at all. These locomotives also come with a bag of detail parts. So while I'm working on these locomotives, I may want to add some of those parts and bring the level of detail up a little bit on these models. I'll just see how it goes. The third Athearn RTR tunnel motor I got is 8497. 8497 is in as-delivered configuration. 8497 has the complete light package. Now the class lights are there, but they've just been painted red. I may want to paint those silver. I haven't decided. Depends on how well I can paint those. My eyesight's so bad, I'm not sure I trust myself to paint those, but we'll see. The rear view of 8497, you can see it has the full light package. And again, the class lights, they've been painted over. It's an RTR model. You're not going to get all the features of a Genesis. Now the detail and the level for the molding is pretty good. As I mentioned earlier, there is a bag of detail parts that each model comes with, so the level of detail can be brought up a little bit. Something that's really important about 8497, and it's one of the reasons I bought this model, is it has its original as-delivered light package. So what I plan to do, is make a mold of the gyro light, possibly the UDE light, and see if I can cast some of these parts that I can install on the late 90s Snoot Noses. I need to make a mold of the gyro light and the UDE light. So I'm trying this 2-part silicon putty to try to make a mold of those two things, and then I'll use some epoxy resin to make some castings. Well, here's the mold for the headlight and the UDE light. I have the mold for the gyro light. And that looks pretty good, so pretty eager to put a little resin in there and pop one out and see how it looks. This is the epoxy resin kit that I got off Amazon. Now I'm only going to need to mix up just a really small amount. This epoxy uses a 1-to-1 ratio. Now the reason I bought this epoxy because it is crystal clear. So when I cast my part, essentially I'll be casting the lenses in, and then the rest of the part I can paint. Now I don't need a lot of resin, just a very little bit. And I've decided I'm not going to do the UDE lights. I don't want to do surgery on the nose of the locomotive. I want to make sure this is mixed really well. It does have small air bubbles, and most of those will come to the top by themselves. As you can see, though, it's pretty clear. So I'm just going to take a small amount on the end of this stick, just start laying it in. I don't want to overfill it because then it'll get too thick and I have to sand it. I have to sand it anyway, but I don't want to have to sand a lot of epoxy out. So I just want to get enough epoxy in there to make this light. I think that's pretty good right there. Now this epoxy takes a long time to cure. I've laid up 2 other gyro lights and I had to let the epoxy cure for 2 days before removing it from the mold. So this is going to have to sit for a couple days. Now here's one of the lenses. This one hasn't been sanded yet. I don't know if you're going to be able to pick that up or not. I've trimmed the edges, but it needs to be sanded around the edge and then flattened in the back. Here's one that has some paint on it. You can see the lens for the light is clear because the part is cast with the clear resin. Here you can see how the lens will just mount up on the cab. And then I can remove the ditch lights. Something I'm considering is making the gyro light functional. And what I'm thinking is I can take the light function that's used for the ditch lights and use it for the gyro light. Now, I don't know if I can do that or not, but typically a function can be programmed how you want to use it. What I could do now is I could drill 2 holes here. I have a 31 thousandths bit. I could drill 2 31 thousandths holes here. And then in the future, if I want to light this up, I can get 30 thousandths fiber optic cable I can run into those holes. So it's something to think about on whether or not I want to make that gyro light functional. I think that's it for now. Wanted to introduce you to my 3 Athearn RTR tunnel motors. Now the Snoot Noses are a bit of a project. The 88-inch nose model, I'm just going to run it as it is. I don't really have a clear plan right now. I know I'm going to keep one of the models, 8314. The other model will be changed to some other road number. I think this will just happen as it happens, and I'll develop a plan as I go along. So I want to thank you for watching. I hope you come back and check in on the tunnel motors when I get some more work done. Thanks for watching.